Hey guys, this is Doc J Birds SE, and today we have a 2007 CRF150R. We're going to do a carburetor clean on this thing. It's having issues idling and actually taking fuel whenever you try to rev it up. So we're going to remove the carburetor and run it through the ultrasonic cleaner and see if we can get this thing to straighten out. A couple of different things you want to take apart here or loosen up to get this carb off. First off, you want to remove this Allen bolt, get this cover off of here, and get the throttle cables disconnected. Then you have two clamps, intake side, and then the filter side. You need to loosen both of these clamps right here, and then the carburetor should come off very easily. You also have a fuel line you should remove. Just make sure you turn your petcock off, and then you will remove that, which I've already done. I've got both of the clamps loosened now for the intake and the filter side of the carb. And then so I'm going to go ahead and take the cover and get the throttle cables off. You're going to use T25 T25 Torx, or somewhere equivalent to that, Allen wrench. Let me get that off. Oh, I'm gonna drop the bolt like I did. Alrighty, once you get that out of there, you can just pop this cover off. The cover comes off. Then you have the two cables that come in on either side. Should be a 10 millimeter. You can just loosen up the nut. Once you loosen it up, you just want to turn that, give it a little slack on the inside. Once you turn that so far, it'll eventually be able to pop out of the sleeve like that. And then once you do that, you just turn the throttle around, and then you can pull the cable out of that, just like this. Alright, so there's the first cable out. Just kind of pull it over here out of the way, stick it down by the exhaust, and then we'll get the top one. I'll do the same thing. Just going to try to turn that out. Just enough so the washer to pull off. It's got two little ears on the back side that keeps this thing locked in. Let me see if I can spin it around here. So basically you just need to spin it out far enough to get that to get that little lip over. Once you get that over, it comes right out. I'm going to do the same thing. Work the throttle loose over here. There you go. That's it. They're both loose. Alright, now we're ready to pop the carb out of here. Alright, so there's a couple different ways you can go about doing this. You can pull the seat and the whole rear subframe off here, and that will bring the air box and everything with it. But if the boot's in really good shape, if it's very flexible, you can just kind of stick a pry bar in here or something. Don't use anything sharp, because you can puncture that boot. So try to use something blunt, and then you just want to pry this thing back. And sometimes they're a little tough. Sometimes they get stuck. So you can see here, see it's already pulled loose from the intake side, but I'm still in the boot. I'm still in the boot there. Alright, so give me a second, let me pry that loose, and I'll be right back. Alright, so now we have the carb loose. We was able to pry the boot back. We had to free up the filter side. It was a little stuck, but a little twist, you can get that loose. So we got it popped loose. Next thing what you want to do here is the throttle position sensor. You need to mark this where it's at with a pen or something. You need to mark it so that you can put it back exactly the way it is. That thing's got to read a certain voltage, so it needs to be in a certain spot to make that voltage. So if you get that off, you may have an issue with the bike running. So I would put it back where it's at, unless you want to get a voltmeter and, you know, check it and get it set exactly back where it's supposed to be. Also, you need to take the let's see here. Nope, that's good. All right, so basically we're going to go get a torque bit, and I'm going to mark this sensor and get it loose so we can get the carburetor inside on the bench, and then we can start tearing it apart. All right, guys, I got it loose. This is what it's going to look like. And also, whenever you put that throttle position sensor in there, you're going to go you're going to have to set that on there and then turn the sensor counterclockwise to line up your mark. And you can see I put just a little line there, and the sensor has a mark on it as well, just so I can line that thing back up perfect. All right, let's get this thing to the bench, see if we can get it cleaned up. All right, guys, we over on the bench now. I got the carburetor off the 150, and what we're going to do is start tearing this thing apart. I'm going to show you the jets we need to remove and inspect, and we'll get this thing loaded into the basket, get it running in the ultrasonic cleaner. All right, so you're going to need Phillips screwdriver here. 1 second. All right, now I'll go ahead and remove the slide. So you want to remove this top plate on this carb, Phillips head. Make sure your screwdriver's set down in there nice. These screws are very easy to strip out. They get a lot of crud, dirt, stuff packed off in them, so just be careful. All right, once we get this removed, we can pull the whole slide. All right, and then that top, the cap's just going to come off. It's got a gasket in here. Just be gentle. A lot of times you can reuse this stuff if it hasn't been sitting too long. And so in here you'll notice that the slide's held in by this clamp here. If you just take this screw out here, you can loosen that up and it'll slide right out. Alright, so once you get that screw out, set it to the side, and then the slide will just pop right out of there. Alright guys, back to removing the slide. So you want to remove this one Phillips head. It's in the top there, let me show you. So it's right there. Now you want to hold everything together here because it's spring loaded. So you want to pull that screw. And then what's going to happen is you're going to pull this whole shaft out of here, out of the side. Right here. So what you can do, there's a spring in there, and it's gonna pull around with you whenever you pull it out. Just pull that thing straight out, just like that. Keep it all together, the spring and everything. Lay it to the side, and after you do that, you can pull the slide out of there. And the clip for the slide. Just make sure you keep everything clocked the right way. It's very easy to turn that stuff around. I mean, it won't bolt up if you do turn it around, so if you have an issue with it going back in, probably got that on backwards. Alrighty, next up, let's take all the Just take all these rubber lines off of it. We don't need all that running through the cleaner. So give me a second, let me get those off. I'll be right back. Alright guys, so real quick, notice whenever I was pulling these off, some of these lines are a little older, they're harder, they don't flex as well. If you look here, let me see if I can get it in here. So this line cracked, split whenever I pull it off. So just make sure if you have any of that happening to trim them back past the split, and make sure those are sealed up good when you get them back together. Alright guys, we're going to remove the choke valve. Let me get that out of there. I just usually use a little pair of needle nose, break it loose, and then you can pretty much turn it with your fingers. You know, I guess it's just depending on the condition of your carb. And then you have the choke valve. I'm gonna lay that to the side. Alright guys, we're gonna take loose the bowl now. I'm gonna go back to your Phillips head screwdriver. Just make sure you got the screwdriver set real good in the screw. You don't strip them out. And we're gonna remove that. And you'll have 4 of these. Alright, so we got those removed. Now you can, alright, you got your idle adjustment here. You want to try to take that loose as well. It's this actually screwed onto the bowl. You won't be able to get it off with that in the way. So just kind of fold that down out of the way. Alright, now you guys shouldn't have this is an aftermarket air screw for quick adjustments. So I'm going to have to remove this one to get the bowl off. You shouldn't have to on the one that you have, if it's just OEM air screw. So what I'm going to do is turn this all the way in and kind of count the turns of where it's already at, just so we know we'll have kind of a baseline when we get this thing back together to make it run. There's one, about a half. So it's about a 1.5 turns there on that screw. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this thing all the way out. Alright. And it looks like it has a busted O-ring. So that could be an issue why this thing isn't running well. Also, that O-ring is busted. Should have had a spring on that. Oh yeah, it's gummed up good in there. You guys won't be able to see down in there very well, I don't think. No. So anyways, it's gummed up pretty good. Looks like spring stuck down there. Let me get a pick. We'll get that out. Alright, so take a pick, just be very gentle. So reach down in there and hook it. Try to pull it up out of there. There it is. Oh yeah. So look here. See all that gunk on the end of that? So this carburetor is just filled up with crud, so it's probably going to do the old bike good to clean the carburetor up on it. Alright, so remember, you got the air screw. Yours won't have a handle on it like this, but it's still pretty much the same thing. You're going to have an O-ring, and you're going to have the spring. Make sure to keep that together. Probably going to end up throwing that whole setup in the ultrasonic cleaner with everything else. Alright, so you can inspect the bowl. You see it's got a lot of green on the inside. It's got some dried up fuel down in there. if you can see very well. So it's pretty bad. And we're probably going to end up having to buy a kit for this one. The bowl gasket looks pretty bad here. It's smashed down pretty good. Should be the gasket should be more round and not flat. And this one is mashed flat, so it's time to replace this gasket. So we'll have to get some parts in the mail here. Once you get that apart there, get the gasket off, set that to the side, then you're going to go back to the carb. Then you have the jets, main jet and pilot jet here in this area. So we're going to pull this stuff. Let's see here. I think that's an 8. Let's get these jets out of here. So the main jet's going to be 2 pieces. You got the top part, and then the bottom. You're going to need a ratchet socket. Get that thing out of there. I think it's an 8mm. Just double check that. Right, yep, it's 8. So just remember, lefty loosey, righty tighty. You don't want to break any of these off. It could turn a good day into a bad day real quick. So once you get the main all the way out, so you're going to be here. It's going to be the rest of it. Once you get that out, you can pull the little plastic shield. You can pull that loose, and then you have 2 more jets. There, and there. And those are just a flat head. Make sure you get a flat head small enough to get in there, not touch the outside of the carbs, because there are threads in there. And if you rub on those threads and burr them up, it's going to be hard to get the jet in and out. Or, you know, there's a possibility you can break one off. It'll seize up. So just be very careful. Alright, let's get those jets out of there. Oh, hang on a second. The flathead. Alright, let's get those jets out. Flathead screwdriver. Do a good solid first turn on them. Get them broke loose. And there it is. Alright, and that's the last one. See if you guys can see that. Yeah. Alright. Now next we need to remove the floats. You have a little pin that holds the float. So let me see if I can see. Right here, you can get right in there and push that pin back. And then you can pull the pin that holds the float. And then the float will just set right out. Be careful, you have a needle here. Now that's connected on the back side of the float. It just slides up on there. You want to remove that stuff too. Really don't want to run those floats through the cleaner. Well, they're plastic, and then you got temp. You got higher temps in the cleaner. I'm running set 40 degrees Celsius. I run between 40 and 50 degrees. We can also remove the idle screw. We can remove that all the way. It has a spring on the end of it as well. So we can reset all that once we get it back together. Well, we're going to have to do some adjusting on it anyways. Once you get that unscrewed, that's what it looks like. You got a little spring on the end of it. Just make sure don't lose it. Keep all that together. Set it to the side. And that's about it. I've got her stripped down pretty good here. For the most part. Look at this. Trash falling out of the inside of the carb. Yeah, this thing was about due for a good cleaning. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to end up putting this in the ultrasonic cleaner. Let me get you turned around here. Alright, this is my ultrasonic cleaner. And I'm running burst for my cleaner. It does pretty good. Just, you know, make sure to wash off the carb and all the parts very good after it's done. Just keeps any oxidation or anything from happening. So what we're going to do is we're going to take and set this basket out. Try to drain all the cleaner out of it. And pretty much, I have a little tray sitting in there with a magnet on the bottom. Kind of helps hold my jets. So we'll put those in. Put all our jets in there. We're gonna run the air screw spring. It was pretty filthy. Honestly, we'll probably just set the whole air screw in there. Just let that run with it. It's not gonna hurt anything. We're gonna take the bowl. I'm gonna set it on its side. I wanna try to set it where there's no air can get trapped in it, and it can drain. If you just lay it on its top, sometimes air gets trapped in there. It doesn't get cleaned very well sometimes. So, and then we're going to take the carb and we're just going to lay that in there on the side. Some of this won't submerge. This is only a 1 gallon cleaner, so we may have to run it twice and flip it, but we'll see how it looks. All right, and there's the carb in the cleaner. Everything's submerged. You see how the carb's still out a little bit. So, and it's basically on the throttle plate side. So it's not, I mean, I don't think it's going to really make much of a difference if I run it twice, because the parts that are out aren't really parts of the function of the carburetor. So we're just going to let this run. It's going to be 30 minutes. I run 30-minute cycles at 40 degrees Celsius. We'll see what it looks like when it comes out. I'll be back. Alright guys, I'm back. We got the carb out of the ultrasonic cleaner. It's looking pretty good. Looking pretty good. We'll get this thing washed up and blowed out, and we'll start putting it back together. Alright, be right back. Alright guys, we got the carburetor cleaned up, blowed off. Everything looks good. So what we're going to do is go ahead and start putting the jets back in that we had taken out, just the same way that you took them out. So we just drop those back in there, just like that. And you're gonna run these down tight. There's no adjustment on these. You just run them in until they seat. Give them a good little snug. Alright, once you got those in, then you can put the little plastic piece, that little shield in the center. We're going to put that back in there. Let's see here. And it'll just slide right down over it, where you can get access to the other jets. And then we're going to put that first part of the main jet in. We're going to snug that up. Just like that. And then make sure to inspect your jets before you put them back in. Make sure everything's opened up, looks good. That looks fine. So we're going to put that back in here. Alright, once you have those back together, we're going to put the float in. Now, like I said, the needle. It's got the little clip on the top. Just want to slide that right in and hang it on the float, just like that. And then you can just set that directly down into it, just like that. Alright, then you're going to get your little pin that we pulled out earlier, and it's just going to slide right back in there. Just make sure you align the float. Just like that. And that's pretty much it for the bottom. I'm going to have to order a gasket, I believe, here. Let me take another look at it. It might seal up here. I might give it a try and see, but I recommend just going ahead and replacing this while you're in there. It just saves you from having to do it twice. So we're just going to go ahead and go with it, I guess. Make sure you slide the little rod for the pump here. Make sure it goes in the hole in the bowl. And you shouldn't have to force any of this. It should just set right back together. If you're having to force something, something's not lined up where it needs to be. So just go back and double check yourself. I'm just going to put these screws back in the bowl. And just snug them. You know, you don't gotta torque these down extremely tight. Just want to snug them up, make the gasket squeeze in there. All right, then you have the bottom back together. Let's slide back in. And you want to be careful. You want to be careful with the needle, because sometimes it won't set right back down into the jet, and then also the wheels on this that helps it slide, they will pop off. So kind of be careful what you're doing here. Keep those all together, and that's it. We're going to slide this down in there. And you got to watch on the inside. Let's see here. So the needle, you want to make sure it goes down into the hole. If not, this thing's not going to slide properly. And once you get it in there, it just slides down. It'll slide all the way to the bottom. You can see on the inside. Now what you want to do is take this guy here, and you're going to push the slide out just a little, so you just right at the top there, and you can hook. Let me see if I can get a picture of that. You can hook these back in there, and this is going to be where the throttle, this guy comes back through. So we're going to actually go ahead and try to run that in there. Alright, you're just going to take it, you want to try to slide it through. And be very careful. You got a couple washers in between the two. So just make sure you get those lined up. Just kind of jiggle them around until it comes through. There you go. Once you get that in there, now on this side you got a spring. You got to make sure that spring is set down inside so it catches. You see there's a little nipple sits there. That's what the spring is going to set on. You got to make sure to push it down below that. Then once you get that in at the top, you have another clip. Now that's gonna set in here on this throttle plate, or the shaft here. It's gonna clip into the back of it once you get it in the carburetor far enough. So once you get it slid in, you can see the actual bolt hole where it's gonna bolt up. There you go. The side, you see the spring still isn't lined up, so I'm going to rotate that. I'm going to rotate that until it catches where it's supposed to. And once you get it rotated around, it'll connect right there. It'll fall right into the spot, and then you want to continue to rotate this thing clockwise or counterclockwise to load the spring up. Now be careful, this thing will slip out if you don't keep tension on it. This will push back out and the spring will jump off, and then you'll have to redo everything. So just make sure to hold it in there, and then you're gonna rotate this. You're gonna rotate this slide until you line up the back of the little arm that pulls the slide up and down. There's a screw that needs to go in and hold that. Alright, once you get all that done, you take your Phillips you had that goes into the slide, and you want to twist the throttle just a little bit to get the screw to line up. Then you want to put that screw back and just snug it up. Same with everything else. Don't over tighten it. It doesn't take a whole lot. Once you get that all done, the throttle will be back in, and it should be spring loaded. It should return. When you close it and open it, if it doesn't go back, you got something not right in the spring behind here. So just make sure that it's spring loaded. Just like that. Alright, now we can put the top back on, and you know, always check your gaskets. The gasket looks pretty good actually on the top of this one, so we're just going to leave that. Get back up. Good deal. Alright, so that's pretty much it. Now we got to put this thing back on the bike. Make sure you put your throttle position sensor back where you marked it. Make sure you get all your hoses back where they came from. Make sure your fuel line's on. Got a clamp or something to help seal it up. Your choke valves, you know, these, you're going to slide those back in here. And then I'm guessing this thing had like a hot start on it. Looks like somebody's deleted it. So I just realized this was in here. So what it is, you'll have a cable from the bike that goes to this, and a lot of people delete it. If it's not deleted on your bike, you'll have a cable, and you'll unscrew this out of the carb and leave this on the bike. But we're just going to slide this back together. I'm just going to snug these up as well. Don't overdo it. They're plastic. Just snug them. Just like that. All right. This thing's ready to go back on the bike. I'll be back to give you an update shortly. All right, guys. We got the carburetor back on. And make sure you tighten all your clamps. This side and this side, get all those tight. Route your drain hoses all back down where they was. Make sure to get your fuel line on. Make sure that you have something. Make sure you're not having any leaks or anything. Your throttle position sensor, make sure you put that back on. When you put it on, you need to set it down on there and then clock it counterclockwise. You need to turn it counterclockwise to get the mark to line up. It'll have a little bit of tension on it whenever you do that, like a spring behind it. Once you get all that done, we're gonna let's put the cables back on. You see here, you got the cables. Just make sure those washers drop down in behind there. All right, give me a second, I'll set these right in. All right, so whenever you're putting these cables in, you want to, let me just pull this out of here. We'll start over here. All right, so you want to just pull the cable to you a little bit. Take the slack out of it, get it past where it actually mounts up. You want to just kind of bend the cable around there and drop it into the hole, and then you're going to spin the cable up so it can set all the way down into the slot like that. Work the cable back around, and then you're going to come back to where you was at earlier here. We're just going to set that right down in there. It's a little tight. You might have to loosen it up just a hair so you can adjust all that back out of it. Yeah, just sits in there just like that. Make sure the washers turn in the back, and you're going to tighten this up. Snug it up so it doesn't fall out of there on you. Just like that. Alright, then we're going to get the other cable. Sorry guys, it's hard to hold this phone and do this. I'm going to get something to make this a little better at some point, so the video's quality will get better for you guys. Alright, so we're going to do the top one the same way. Push it in there. Put it back. Make sure to flip your washer around so that let's see here. Yeah, so the little catch is on the back. Alright, once you line it up, it'll fall right in. Make sure your washers turn to the back for the catch to hold it. And then we're just gonna tighten those up with our fingers, or you know, run them up and then put a wrench on them. And then we can get the cover back on here. See if this thing will start up. All right, guys, got the carburetor back on. We'll give this thing a kick and let's see what we got. All right, there you go, guys. Carburetor clean. 150R.
Thanks for stopping by. Leave a like, subscribe.